really appreciate that the thought process is moving towards the learning and evaluating the various challenges that has been faced by our fraternity time and again. So without getting into all formalities, I welcome everyone to the webinar. The topic for today is refunds in GST Act, and possibly I will be trying to brush up certain information and the definitions so that it becomes easy to pick it up. And I will be also covering certain latest updates in the GST refunds. So before we get into the actual lecture, I would like to share certain pics which I have taken from the website. Now, if you see this screen, this is Hazrat Bal Shrine, or this is National Park Borivali, or the Charminar. I have put this pics only to understand that the nature is rejoicing this lockdown, and though we are stuck in the lockdown, the nature has tried to recoup most of its lost land and the air clarity. So there is a national park, there is Charminar, all very beautiful. London Bridge, we have Red Fort, we have Delhi Express Highway, we have this Italian tunnel wherein the swans are back. Then we have India Gate with all those birds and the clean air. Then we have Gateway of India with Taj Mahal Hotel, so clean, so beautiful. This is Los Angeles. Then this is my Himalayas, which can be visible from 200 kilometers from Jalandhar. So you can understand how the everything has its own pros and cons. Nature has become very beautiful, very rejoicing. Maybe the tourism industry can take the benefit of this beautiful nature and recoup its lost fame of coronavirus. So let's appreciate the beautiful nature and let's move ahead. My presentation plan for today for the GST refund is I will be covering certain ITC concept, the legal provisions related to it, the definitions, the refund, what is refund, the types and the forms, the rules and circulars, the practical issues and certain questions. Maybe certain topics I will rush through because we have only 1 hour, and basically unless the definitions and the thought process is clear, filing for the refund becomes a very big challenge because now department has started rejecting the refund if it is not following into the four corners of the law. So let me brush through the informations and the definitions. So what do we call input as per the GST law? Input as per the GST law means any goods other than the capital goods used or intended to be used by a supplier in the course or furtherance of business. So it is any goods other than capital goods. So input is goods other than capital goods used or intended to be used by a supplier in the course or furtherance of business. Now, what is input service? Input service means any service used or intended to be used by the supplier in the course or furtherance of business. So let's understand input when a particular line in the law or the definition or the rules talk about input, they specifically mean goods. When they talk about input service, it is services which is intended in the to be used in the course or furtherance of business. Input tax credit, the credit of inputs, the tax that we have paid on the inputs. The simple definition. Then capital goods means the goods, the value which is capitalized in the books of accounts of the person claiming the credit and which are used or intended to be used in the course or furtherance of business. So let's understand they are not getting into whether it should be capitalized or not. They are saying that if you are capitalizing the goods in your books, in the books of accounts as per the current laws of the land, then if it is capitalized in the books, then the goods which is capitalized will be treated as capital goods as for the purposes of the GST. Now, what is electronic credit ledger? I did not tell everyone. I will request someone to put their microphone on mute with different disturbance. The input tax credit as self-assessed in the return of registered person shall be credited to his electronic credit ledger in accordance with the section 41 to be maintained in the as per the law. So input services, input tax credit, capital goods, electronic credit ledger. This we have been reading and learning from last 3 years, July 17 and will be approaching July 20. So it's 3 years that we have completed in GST. This particular definitions have become daily terminologies that we use. Now what is input tax? So we learned about input services, input tax. Now what is input tax? Input tax. Input tax, they have put a very brief definition and a very exhaustive one. They say input tax in relation to the registered person means CGST, SGST, UTGST or integrated tax paid or used in the supply of goods or services. So it is like means CGST, SGST, Union Territory tax charged on supply of goods or services or both made to him as in the registered person is receiving this input tax. He is the supply that has been made to him and includes means the central tax, state tax, integrated tax and Union Territory tax charged on supply of goods or services or both made to him and includes the taxes paid for the import of goods, the tax payable under 9394 of CGST Act, the taxes paid under 5354 of IGST Act, the taxes paid under 93 and 94 of SGST Act, and the taxes paid under 73 and 74 of Union Territory taxes. Now, if you see 9394 of CGST Act or 5354 of IGST Act or 9394 of SGST Act or 7374 of SGST Act. Now, if all these four relates to the taxes paid under RCM for the specified goods or taxes paid for the unregistered dealer. So 93 is specified goods and services, the taxes paid against them, and 94 is the taxes paid against the purchases made from unregistered supplier of goods or the services. But mind it, input tax does not include tax paid under composition levy. So if I am a registered dealer and I am receiving any goods from a composition dealer and by any chance he has collected any taxes from me, I cannot treat it as an input tax, either as per the GST, CGST Act, IGST, SGST or UTGST. So input tax includes the import of goods, IGST paid under import of goods, 9394 of CGST as IGST, 7374 of UTGST, and 5354 of IGST. So this definitions I've just brushed up so that when we're talking about the refunds, we are clear what type of taxes will be refundable. Now, when could I take a credit, or let me tell you how the input tax credit becomes eligible. The person should be in possession of the tax invoice not earlier than 1 year, which is 12 months. He should have received the goods or the services or both in full or complete. Tax on such goods is deposited with the government by the supplier. The supplier who has given me the goods or the services, he should have paid the taxes to the government. And I should have filed my return under section 39 of the CGST Act. So if I have not booked the invoices or I have booked it in incomplete, let me book it now. Now, even though I'm closing all the criteria provided by section 16 bracket 2, all the provisos that is provided in section 16, I have certain limitations which has been inserted by the CGST rules. One of the major rules that is restricting the input tax credit is the rule 36 bracket 4. Now there is a notification number 49 by 2019 dated 9th October 2019. So this is a very critical notification, which is notification number 49 by 2019, which says that input tax credit availed by registered person in respect of any invoice or debit notes, the details of which have not been uploaded by the supplier under subsection 37 bracket under section 37 bracket 1 shall not exceed 20% of the eligible credit available in respect of those invoices. So even if I'm eligible under section 16 bracket 2 or its provisos, and I'm having the tax invoice, I'm having the complete goods and services, my supplier has deposited the taxes in form 3B, I have filed my return, but if the transaction is not uploaded by the supplier in and as per the section 37 bracket 1, my eligible credit shall not exceed 20% available in respect of those invoices. So let's understand this notification is limiting my eligibility criteria if my supplier fails to upload the data in form 2A, the 2A which is reflecting to me. He will be inserting the data in GSTR 1, but it will reflect in GSTR 2A to me. And if it is not visible, then my input tax credit shall not exceed 20% of the eligible credit available. Then there was a notification 75 bracket 2019 dated 26 December 2019, which said that the eligibility of this 20%, exceeding 20%, is reduced to 10%. So my input tax credit shall not exceed 10% of the eligible credit. So from December to 2019, my eligible credit, if it is not reflecting in the form, it shall not exceed 10% of the eligible credit. Now let's look at the refunds. This was just a brushing up the information so that when I'm reading through the refund provisions, there is no confusion. Now let's look at refunds. Refunds, Chapter 11 of CGST Act, Section 54 to 58. There are certain sections in IGST Act also which help us in taking the refund, but right now we are concentrating on CGST. Certain slides will be talking of IGST also, but my specific slide will talk about the section number covered for the IGST. This is Chapter 11 of CGST Act, Section 54 to Section 58. Rules 89 to Rule 97. Rule 89 to Rule 97 talk about the refund rules. Section 15 and Section 16 of IGST Act. Then the forms that typically is used from RFD 01 to RFD 010. 010 is used by the United Nations organizations or the embassies, foreign embassies or the ambassadors of the foreign countries to claim the refund. Now, refund as such has not been defined in entire law, but explanation 1 to section 54. Section 54 talks about the refund of the taxes. So if we go to the explanation 1 of section 54, it is an inclusive information saying refund includes refund of tax paid on zero rated supplies of goods or services or both. Refund includes refund of taxes on zero rated supply of goods or services or both, or inputs or input services used in making such zero rated supplies, or refund of tax on the supply of goods, or refund of tax on the supply of goods regarded as deemed exports, or refund of unutilized input tax credit. So let's understand, they talk about refund of tax on zero rated supplies, refund of tax on zero rated supplies of goods or services or both, or on inputs and input services used in making such zero rated supplies. So one is talking about the refund of taxes paid on zero rated supplies. One is talking about the unutilized inputs or input services used in making such zero rated supplies, or refund of tax on supply of goods regarded as deemed exports. Deemed exports I will be covering in the subsequent slides, and the refund of unutilized input tax credit as provided under subsection 3 of section 54. So refund of tax paid on zero rated supplies of goods or services or both, refund of zero rated supplies or services, refund of tax on supply of goods regarded as deemed exports, or refund of unutilized. So zero rated, deemed exports, and unutilized input tax credit. Now who is eligible to claim the credit? If you read section 16 bracket 3, 16 bracket 3 of IGST Act, 16 bracket 3 of IGST Act says a registered person making zero rated supply shall be eligible to claim refund. A registered person making zero rated supply shall be eligible to claim refund under either of the following options. Now this 16 bracket 3, this is of IGST Act. So this will only talk about the exports, the zero rated supply. And it says following options, namely, he may supply goods or services or both under LUT, or the safeguards or procedures provided without payment of integrated tax and claim refund of unutilized input tax credit. Supply of goods or services or both under LUT or the bond and claim refund of unutilized input tax credit, or he may supply goods or services or both subject to such conditions and procedures provided on payment of integrated tax and claim refund of such tax paid on goods or services or both. So either he can claim unutilized input tax credit on exports of goods or services or both under LUT or bond, or he can pay the integrated tax and claim refund of such taxes paid on goods or services or both. Now we come to section 54(3) CGST Act. That was in bracket 3 of IGST Act, which was enabling the refund for the zero rated supply, talking about the eligibilities. And we come to section 54 bracket 3, which is enabling the refund to zero rated supplies made without payment of taxes and or where the credit has accumulated on account of rate of inputs being higher than the rate of tax on output supplies other than the nil rated or fully exempt supplies. So 54 bracket 3 of CGST Act, which says that you can claim a refund for zero rated supplies made without payment of taxes, which is unutilized input tax credit for the exports made under LUT, or inverted duty structure. So if you read through, accumulated, credit accumulated on account of rate of tax on inputs being higher than the rate of tax on output supplies. So here if you see, if my rate of tax on inputs is more than the rate of tax on output, then the credit gets accumulated in the electronic credit ledger, and I'm allowed to claim the refund of that accumulated credit. Now there has been a query wherein a person is paying a rent at the rate of the tax on the rent of immovable property at the rate of 18%. However, his goods, the outward supply, is taxed at the rate of 3%, or for example 5%. Now if you see, there is an inverted duty structure. The rent on the immovable property is at the rate of 18%. However, my output supply is at the rate of 5%. Now the query is whether I can claim the refund of the tax that I paid on the rent, which is much more higher than the rate that I've collected on the output supply. Now, if you look at the rules, there is a restriction in the inverted duty structure on the refund of input tax credit on services. So even if my section 54 bracket 3 talks of the refund of the credit accumulated, my rules restrict the refund on these services. However, let's understand, officers will allow you only on the principal input. The concept of IDS comes into play if your principal input is at the rate of duty which is higher than the outward supply of the principal output. So these are the two criteria or the people who can claim the refund. Exporter can claim the refund as per 16 bracket 3, or a person has made the export under LUT, or the credit has accumulated under inverted duty structure as per section 54 bracket 3 of CGST Act. Now we are talking about zero rated supply. So let's understand what is zero rated supply. Is the zero rated supply defined in the GST Act? The zero rated supply has been provided as means any of the following supplies of goods or services or both, namely export of goods or services or both, or supply of goods or services or both to SEZ or special economic zone developer. So if my goods are in the process of export or they are supplied to the SEZ, then it is treated as a zero rated supply. Export of goods.
Archana, can you, is there any definition of principal input?
In the law, there is no definition of principal input. Neither they provided the definition of what is inverted duty structure. So entire law does not say what is actually inverted duty structure. The 54 bracket 3 says if my accumulated credit is on account of rate of tax on inputs is higher, then the rate of tax on output supply, then I am eligible to claim the credit. But whether it is principal input and principal output, there is no such definition as far as my information goes in the entire law or the rules.
So in your example, why the entire rent cannot be claimed as a refund? The difference.
Rent of immovable property, as I mentioned.
Yeah. Because see, if it is a unit. If I have taken a rented unit, a manufacturing requirement. So how one can decide whether it is a principal input or not? You can say the raw material is a principal input, but without having the factory premises, how can I manufacture the goods? How can we decide that whether it is a principal? What is the point in restricting that? Mentioning that it should be principal input, not on all items.
Okay, the point is under deliberation, and as far as my information goes, there is no clarity from the department on this. Problem is, if my rate of input is higher, for example, if my rate of tax on the input is 28% and my rate of tax on my output is 5%, I will always say it is an inverted duty structure. Now, if I get into the actual definition, now there is no definition for principal input or the output. However, I will simply answer it in this way. I can go ahead and claim the refund because there is no restriction in the law to claim the refund of my input services tax. However, if I read rule 89 bracket 5, the net ITC, which I will be covering in the subsequent slide, the net ITC does not include the input services in it. So by virtue of 89 bracket 5, I am not allowed to claim the refund of the input services, irrespective whether it is my principal input service. They were allowing only the input, the refund of only the goods, that is inputs for the inverted duty structure.
But ये तो पूरी नाइंसाफी है, because services is a part and parcel. Because I may be doing a job work, I may be getting a lot of, so there will be so many services, not necessarily principal, it may be auxiliary. So many services are going to be put into manufacturing. So all those will not come into ITC calculation.
Sir, as per rules, they are not allowing. They are rejecting the refund for services. In fact, the recent circular that is dated 31st March 2020, 135 bracket 05 2020, therein they have very clearly said that you have to provide us the HSN or the SSC code of the entire inputs so that they are aware whether the SSC is claiming or the registered dealer is claiming the refund of inputs or input services. So input services, as per the rules, they are not sanctioning it. Whether it is good governance or not, possibly the government is the right team to answer it. I am not the right person.
This is a point to
Hello,
be
madam. Can I
represented.
ask one query?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I am having the exempted supply.
Okay.
Yeah, and I also having I exported that material. Okay, it's an agricultural produce.
Okay.
So I can consider that nil rated or exempted into my zero rated supply. Okay. Hello.
So basically, your product is exempted as per the GST Act, right?
Yes.
However, this exempted product is exported outside India.
So it will coming
Right?
under zero rated supply.
Yes. So your zero rated supply overtakes the character of the exempted supply.
Correct. So in that case, yeah. So if I want to take the refund of the whatever input I use, so can I?
Yes.
Hello.
So yes, your zero rated supply overtakes the character of exempted supply. See, it is exempted in India. If you are selling it in India, the goods are exempted in India. So when we talk about the exemption or the zero rated, let's understand exemption is to the goods. If I'm selling a particular goods in India, it is exempted as per the GST Act. However, when I'm exporting, the particular transaction becomes a zero rated transaction.
Yes.
So my zero rated transaction will overtake the character of exempted supply, and I'm allowed to claim the credit of all the input goods or the input services that I've used during the process of exporting these exempted goods outside India.
Yeah, but for that I need to either file an LUT or I have to pay the whatever the required tax rate. But if I forget to file the LUT, so still I'm able to take the refund.
Yes, I have covered in the subsequent slide what happens if my LUT is not there, or there is one transaction that I've done the exports, I was not prepared. So I've covered that in the subsequent slide. I will come and tell you the particular notification number also.
Okay.
Yes. So who can claim? The person who has made the zero rated supplies, or I have a credit accumulated on account of rate of taxes on the inputs, which is higher, and the rate of taxes which is on the output supply is lower.
Inverted.
Yes. So what is zero rated supply? Zero rated supply is the supply of goods or services or both, namely, which is export of goods or services or both, or supply of goods or services to SEZ developer or SEZ unit. So here you see it is talking about a transaction. If my supply is made, supply of goods or services made as export of goods or services, or supply is made to the SEZ. So there can be a goods or services which is sold domestically also and sold outside India through export, or sold in a non-taxable territory like SEZ. So that is called as a zero rated supply. Now, whether zero rated supply and export of goods, people get confused. What is zero rated supply and what is export of goods? So zero rated supply has been brought in section 16 bracket 1 in IGST Act, because that is talking about a supply. What is export of goods? Export of goods has been defined in 2 bracket 5 of IGST Act. What is export of goods? Export of goods with its all grammatical variations and cognate expressions. Why? Because sometimes certain particular activity does not fall into the variation, and the officer takes a stand saying that it is not export. So they are saying with all its grammatical variations, and cognate expressions means taking goods out of India to a place outside India. Means taking goods outside India to a place outside India. So my goods have to physically travel from a place outside India to a place. Hello? Means taking goods out of India to a place outside India. My goods have to physically travel from a territory which is located in India to a place outside India. If they are not physically traveling from India to outside India, then there may be a challenge of treating it as an export of goods. Understand, this is about export of goods. So there has to be a physical movement of goods. We can think of a vessel which is moving.
Yeah.
A vessel which is moving outside India. Or maybe by the air cargo. Now, there has been a query that if I buy certain goods from UK, for example, I buy a PPE kits from UK and I sell those PPE kits in Germany. Now, whether that particular transaction will be treated as exports of goods in India, there has been different interpretations, but let's understand my definition says means taking goods out of India to a place outside India. So now there has been a schedule 3 which has been amended and point 7 has been brought. The clause 7 says supply of goods from a place in a non-taxable territory to another place in a non-taxable territory without such goods entering into India shall not be treated as supply of goods or supply of services. So if I buy the goods from a UK and sell it in Germany without physically bringing it into India, Germany is a non-taxable territory as per the GST Act. UK is a non-taxable territory as per the GST Act. So that particular transaction will neither be treated as supply of goods nor a supply of services. So section 7, read with schedule 3, clause 7 says supply of goods from a place in the non-taxable territory to another place in a non-taxable territory without such goods entering into India will not be treated as supply of goods or supply of services.
Okay.
What is export of services? So let's understand till last 2 slides, export of goods. This slide, export of services. Now what does the export of services means? Now let's see 2(6) of IGST Act. All the export definitions by and far except the deemed exports has been defined in IGST Act. So if you need to read those definitions, you have to go to the IGST Act instead of CGST Act. IGST Act says export of services means supply of any service when the supplier of service is located in India. The supplier of services is located in India. The recipient of service is located outside India. The place of service is outside India. The payment of such services is received in foreign exchange. And the supplier of service and the recipient of services are not mere a distinct entity. So the supplier of service has to be in India. The recipient has to be outside India. The place of supply, I'm not discussing over here. Everyone knows that. So place of supply, section 12 of IGST Act and section 13 of IGST Act. You can read for the place of supply, whether it is in India or outside India. Every category of service has been tried to be included in those particular sections. So supplier of services has to be in India, but the recipient of services has to be outside India. The place of supply of service has to be outside India. The foreign currency has to be received against that particular transaction, and both the entities, the supplier of service and the recipient of service, should not be a distinct entity. So SBI having a branch in UAE and supplying services from Mumbai to UAE to its branch will not be treated as export of services because the branch is merely a distinct entity. This was also discussed during the service tax regime, and this has been very clear that distinct entities cannot have export of services within themselves, and this has been actually covered in explanation 1 of section 8. Now, export of services, everyone knows, foreign exchange. Nepal and Bhutan has to be INR as permitted by the RBI. Deemed exports. Export of services clear, deemed exports. Now, export, people talk about export, people talk about export of services, then they talk about deemed export. Is the point 1, the concessional rate provided by the notification 40/2017 of CG is deemed exports? No, deemed export comes in section 147 of CGST Act. So deemed exports means such supplies of goods as may be notified under section 147. Now 147 that has been notified, I will cover the notification in the next slide. Supply of goods by domestic tariff area registered dealer to export oriented unit or ESTP or STPI or biotechnology parks. Now this is 48/2017 dated 18th October 2017. What is deemed exports? Now let's understand again, this is a transactional entry. You cannot say if all the goods are under advance authorization, all the capital goods are under export. So supply of goods by a registered person against advance authorization or supply of capital goods by registered person against EPCG or supply of goods by a registered person to export oriented unit. Supply of goods by registered person from a domestic tariff area to a export oriented unit or supply of gold by a bank or a public sector undertaking as per the notification against advance authorization. So these are the transactions which are called as deemed exports, and this has been notified under 48/2017. So the people who are under the supply or doing the transactions which fall under deemed exports are also eligible to claim the refund. Now, which are the situations which is leading to the refund? Instead of getting into the CGST law and telling where we can claim the refund, what I have done is I have copied and pasted the types that has been provided in the GST portal, the common portal, where all we can claim the refund. This is just for a layman understanding. So if you have excess balance in your electronic cash ledger, you can claim the refund of it. That's the refund of cash. Refund of cash lying idle in your electronic cash ledger can be refunded or claimed as a refund. Refund of ITC on export of goods and services without payment of taxes. Refund of ITC on export of goods or services without payment of taxes. So that is export under bond or LUT. On account of supplies made to SEZ. On account of supplies made under SEZ or refund on account of accumulated duty inverted structure on account of refund by recipient of deemed export. Recipient of deemed export. So person who is doing a deemed export can also claim a refund. Otherwise, the person who is a recipient of deemed export, export oriented unit, there is again a provision to claim a refund of it. Refund on account of supplies to SEZ unit or SEZ developer with payment of taxes. Export of services with payment of taxes. Tax on paid on intrastate supply, which is subsequently held as interstate supply or vice versa. On account of refund by supplier of deemed export. Above it was refund by recipient. Here it is refund on account of supplier of deemed export. Any other category, the residual category, wherein that has not been covered above. Excess payment of taxes, instead of paying 12%, I have paid 18% on a particular transaction, which may be high value. I can claim a refund of that. Or assessment, provisional assessment, appeal, or any other of it. So there is without payment of taxes, with payment of taxes for export of goods. Why do people go for payment of taxes? Because the restriction of capital goods does not come into play when I'm exporting the goods with payment of taxes. And the shipping bill that we file is treated as a refund application for the purposes of the refund. So it becomes very easier, and it is a complete automated process when we make the exports with payment of taxes. So services also we can make with payment of taxes. Goods also we can make with payment of taxes. SEZ supply also we can make with payment of taxes. The supply of services to SEZ also can be with payment of taxes. No refund if the refund claim is below rupees 1,000. So if my refund claim, the entire RFD 01 for all the tax, like CGST is 900, SGST is 900, IGST 900. So I cannot claim refund because the amount for each particular tab is below 1,000 rupees. So even if it is coming to 3,000 rupees for IGST, CGST, SGST, but the department will not process the refund because my refund claim is below 1,000 rupees for each act. However, if my cash ledger balance, if there is 100 rupees or even 50 rupees or even 25 rupees and I want to claim it as a refund from the excess balance lying in my cash ledger, the above limit does not apply. How much is the refund that will be granted to me? People say refund, 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 but how much refund? So instead of getting into transaction analysis, they have made a proportionate refund. Now this is coming from rule 89 bracket 4 of CGST rules. 89 bracket 4. The refund amount, the eligible refund amount is turnover of zero rated supply of goods plus turnover of zero rated supply of services into net ITC divided by adjusted turnover. Means export turnover of goods plus export turnover of services into net ITC divided by adjusted total turnover. So adjusted total turnover they have defined in 89 bracket 4. Net ITC they have defined in 89 bracket 4. And turnover of goods is also defined in the 89 bracket 4. So for the purposes of 89 bracket 4, my definition for turnover of services or net ITC or adjusted total turnover is different. What is adjusted total turnover for 89.4? Now this is about exports. Let me be very clear. When they talk about adjusted total turnover, adjusted total turnover is defined as the total value of turnover in a state or a union territory. We all are aware that refund can be claimed only about a particular state. You cannot claim for the entire pan-India turnover. You can claim the refund of a particular state by filing the RFD 01. So what is adjusted total turnover? The denominator that they are using over here for the adjusted total turnover. Adjusted total turnover means the sum total value of turnover in a state or a union territory as provided in 2 bracket 112, excluding the turnover of services and turnover of zero rated supply of services determined and excluding a value of exempt supplies other than zero rated supplies and turnover of supplies in respect of which refund is claimed. So my adjusted total turnover says my total turnover in a state, however, excluding the turnover of the domestic services. Turnover in a state or the union territory, excluding the turnover of services and turnover of zero rated supply of services, but excludes the exempt supplies. However, in that exempt supplies, if I have a zero rated supplies, then that will not be excluded. And the turnover of supplies in respect of which refund is claimed in 4A, 4B of 89, rule 89. 4A, 4B is deemed exports, ESTPEOU. So my adjusted total turnover includes the turnover of goods, turnover of zero rated goods, turnover of zero rated supplies, minus turnover of domestic services, excluding exempt supplies, but if exported supplies, which is exempt but exported, it will be not excluded, and the deemed export supplies. So when I'm taking the denominator, my denominator has to be very clear. The turnover has to be reported properly, otherwise more or less the denominator affects my total calculation. So my adjusted total turnover initially in the law has been amended by notification number 39 by 2018. So if you read the laws, the GST law or the GST rules on the website of the GST portal, many a times the notification has not been included or the amended as per the notifications issued. So adjusted total turnover, if you read on the website portal, the GST rules, possibly this adjusted turnover as per the notification number 39 by 2018, dated 4th September 2018, will not be reflected in the old law, which has not been updated. So we have to be very careful while applying, otherwise the the officer may raise a DM, and once the DM is raised, we have to make a fresh application. That I will cover in the coming this one.
Archana ma'am, sorry to
Yes,
interrupt, but many people are unable to see the PPT. So is it possible for you to share the screen again?
sure.
Because, yeah.
Is it visible now?
Not yet. Now it is started.
Yes.
So we just repeat this adjusted total turnover for the purpose of the reiteration. Adjusted total turnover has been amended. Rule 89 bracket 4. The definition of adjusted turnover has been amended by notification number 39 by 2018, which I have pasted over here. It includes the total turnover of goods minus the total turnover of domestic services plus the zero rated supply of services, the export turnover of services minus the exempt supplies minus the deemed exports. So adjusted total turnover while taking putting in the refund RFD 01, be careful. Notification number 39 by 2018 has to be taken care of. Now what is turnover of zero rated supply? Now turnover of zero rated supply initially was a very simple. Turnover of zero rated supply was the total turnover which is treated as exports. But notification number 16 bracket 2020 dated 23rd March 2020. Now this has been notified for the rules 89 bracket 4. So be careful. They say value of zero rated supply of goods made during the relevant period without payment of taxes under bond or LUT, or the value of the goods which is 1.5 times the value of the domestic supplied goods by the same or similarly placed as declared by the supplier, whichever is less other than the turnover of supplies in respect of 4A 4B. 4A 4B is deemed exports. So my zero rated supply of goods made under LUT or bond, or value of goods which is 1.5 times the value of domestic supplied. So if my value of goods is 100, it has to be taken 1.5 times and I have to compare both of them, and whichever is less will be treated as the turnover of supplies for the purposes of claiming the refund. So there is a stretch of transfer pricing over here. So if you're supplying the goods domestically and you're supplying the goods outside India, you need to be very cautious that your zero rated supplies do not fall in the clutches of the law exceeding 1.5 times. Otherwise, this is one provision that they have brought in 89 bracket 4. Possibly this may get stretched to the law also, and there can be a challenge wherein the export of goods, the valuation of the exports of goods may be taken for a scrutiny. I am just preempting it. I'm not.
अर्चना इसीलिए वो सब ज्यादा कंपनी चाइना के बाद इंडिया में नहीं वियतनाम में जा रही है. इतना सब हम स्ट्रेच करते जाएंगे. I think this is going to create a lot of litigation. Everywhere the valuation is going to come, transfer pricing is going to be invited. What is this nonsense? But actually, it is not having any sense in that fashion. They are not believing on the SEC as such. Whatever the export that are being made, because you have so many hurdles to pass while doing the export. What is the point in bringing all these notification in between? What is the idea actually?
Exactly, I agree. Let's understand, while making the exports, not only you have the national borders, national laws to be complied with, you have to comply with the international laws, you have to comply with the anti-dumping duty of the other countries, you have to comply with the transfer pricing of the other companies, then you have DTAA provisions, you have TIA applications, and upon that, when you're asking for a refund from the government for bringing a foreign exchange currency, you are asked to reduce your turnover to the 1.5 times of the value of a domestically supplied goods. So possibly I may be making losses in my domestic tariff area, but my only profit zone is my exports, and they are trying to reduce that, comparing with the domestic supply, and accordingly reducing my refund, which is my entitlement. So this provision may be. Yes, sir.
But what in case of exempted supply?
Hello. So possibly, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
So possibly, this may be challenged. This may be challenged in the court of law, as 36(4) is getting challenged. Possibly this also, because it is actually reducing my entitlement. And what if my entire goods I'm export oriented unit, though I have not taken the AOU license, EOU license, but I'm 100% export oriented unit. And due to COVID or due to some reasons, I have sold certain goods within the domestic tariff area only to scrap out my goods. And what tomorrow if this officer tries to compare that desperate selling to the export value of my goods, I will be completely at a loss. So possibly the stretch of imagination has to be challenged in the court of law, because not only it is reducing my entitlement, it is actually reducing my export value pricing also. So we will move ahead. Turnover of zero rated goods. Body notification number 16/2020, dated 23rd March. Possibly because not to comment upon, the officers are at a lockdown, and they are looking at the various dramatic connotations, and they are coming with the various suggestions to reduce the entitlement of the dealers who are actually bringing the foreign currency, and they are who are actually eligible for the FDI and the FIIs in India. But let's move ahead. This challenges will be faced during the process. We can always counter it in the court of law. So that was turnover of zero rated. Yes.
Yeah, madam. If in case my raw material is not means it is not taxable, but the support service are means which are the taxable. So what in that case about the refund?
Your raw material is exempt, right?
Yeah.
And it is domestically procured.
Yes. But I'm
so there will be
exporting
no
my
ITC
other.
refund.
भैया रिफंड भूल जाओ.
But
लेस
but
सिमलेस नहीं है, लेस सिमलेस.
नहीं, बट अगर मेरा exempted supply अगर मैं एक्सपोर्ट करता हूँ तो वो तो जीरो रेटेड में चला जाएगा ना, एंड जीरो रेटेड आई कैन गेट द रिफंड अगर मेरा जीरो रेटेड में चलता है.
Sir, understand, when you have a product, for example, you have a salt. I am taking a salt because it can easily understand, relate to the current practical. When I'm buying a salt, it is exempt. But while buying the salt, I'm paying RCM for GTA. I am paying to an advocate. I am paying to chartered accountant. I am paying to various consultants. I am also paying for making that salt as an export-oriented quality. So possibly I'm getting the salt polished, remanufactured, or maybe using certain ingredients. So while using the ingredients, I'm also using certain taxable supplies. And in the process, when I'm exporting this salt outside India, because now it has become export-oriented quality, all those ingredients that I've used, for which I've paid taxes, I can claim it as a refund, because finally my transaction has got into export.
Zero rated.
Yes, zero rated. So maybe my principal input is exempt, by my ancillary inputs are not exempted, my ancillary services are not exempted. Understand, when we were talking about the 54, section 54, principal input to principal output, it was about the inverted duty structure. Your exempt supply is not following into inverted duty structure. That also I will cover it in the next slide.
Okay, so now
Net
I can take the
ITC.
refund, na?
Yes.
Ancillary services.
Zero rated net ITC here. It is saying zero rated net ITC means input tax credit, availed on input and input services. So in zero rated, they give you refund of inputs and input services also. No capital goods, inputs and input services also. Just a second.
Okay. Thank you.
हाँ मैडम. हेलो
हेलो
Hello. Am I audible?
Just a minute, hold on. Yeah.
Hello.
Charger. Yes, am I audible?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, tell me.
Hi, in one of my client, they 100% export. There is no this a domestic transaction. Then also officer has given only 3% of GST refund, not the full amount, provisional refund. What is the remedy?
I need to understand the entire transaction.
Yeah, that is
If there is no domestic procurement,
No, no. Yes, purchase is there domestic, but sales side fully export transaction.
So then are you exporting through LUT or exporting through payment of taxes?
LUT.
Then you are eligible for 100% refund.
Yeah,
Go
but
for provisional refund.
officer has provided us only 3% provisional refund. So what is the base for that?
There is no concept of 3% refund. But I need to understand what is the logic of 3% refund. Secondly, if your refund is eligible and you have claimed it as per the 89 bracket 4, then he should actually allow you 100% refund.
Yeah.
90% initially and 10% at the rest. But now after 100% electronic processing, they are granting you 100% refund.
Okay, and what in case if I forget to file the LUT?
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
There is a clarity by the department itself, the circular. So net ITC for the zero rated is inputs and input services during the relevant period means the input tax credit availed. So if I go back to the original formula, refund amount is export of goods, export of services into net ITC divided by total turnover, adjusted total turnover. So net ITC means inputs and input services. Now this is my exports. I'm going to IDS now. IDS is inverted duty structure. My duty structure on inputs, principal inputs in fact, is higher than the duty structure on my output supply. So there the formula, now inverted duty structure is 89 bracket 5. 89 bracket 4 was exports. 89 bracket 5 CGST rules is IDS. I call it IDS. Some experts call it as ITS, depending on their comfort. I call it as IDS, inverted duty structure. Refund on account of inverted duty structure, the eligible amount is turnover of inverted duty supply of goods or services into net ITC divided by adjusted total turnover. Now this is the principal formula. Reduced, the total eligible ITC refund, which is refundable, will be reduced by the tax payable on such inverted rate of supply of. So in understanding IDS turnover of goods or services into net ITC divided by adjusted total turnover, less tax payable on IDS. So whatever taxes that I've paid on my goods, which are falling into inverted duty structure, that tax amount which I've collected on this structure has to be reduced from the eligible refund amount. So what is adjusted total turnover? Same as provided in the zero rated supply notification number 2000. Net ITC for IDS. Here if you see, net ITC shall mean input tax credit. Input tax credit availed on inputs. So this is not talking about input services. It is only talking about inputs. So 89 bracket 5, when it comes to IDS, it says net ITC is input tax credit availed on inputs other than the input tax availed, clear refund claimed under 4A or 4B. Now, the IDS or exports both have a formula defined. So some people say, how do I understand how much is my refund? I made one transaction of exports. So can I claim the eligible, how to understand my eligible ITC? Will I have to tell the entire chain? No, you have to only get into the proportionate calculation. They will not give you a transactional refund. The transactional refund is allowed only in case you are exporting with payment of taxes, payment of IGST. So there is a concept. Now, I know what is refund. I know what is eligible refund. I know how much is eligible. I know adjusted turnover. But till what time I can file my refund? Can I file my 2017 refund application in 2027? Can I file my 2020 refund application in 2030? No. Relevant date has been provided in the explanation 2 of section 54. Any person claiming refund of any tax or interest may make an application before the expiry of 2 years from the relevant date. Expiry of 2 years. So by blank 2 years, but from the relevant date. So 2017, 1st July 2017, I made an export. Till what time can I claim refund? 1st July 2019. Right? So 2 years from the relevant date. But what is relevant date? Relevant date for each category they have provided very separately, very precisely. So if goods are exported by sea or air, on which the ship or the aircraft in which such goods are loaded leaves India, the date on which the aircraft or the vessel is leaving the India, or if the goods are exported by land, the date on which such goods pass the frontiers, the date on which goods have actually moved out, the day when it has actually left my Indian territory. If the goods are exported by post, the date of dispatch of goods. So when by sea or air, the day ship or the aircraft is loaded and leaves India. So there can be a date when it is loaded and there can be a date when it leaves India. Today, because of COVID, most of the vessels are stranded. Most of the aircrafts are not leaving. They may be loaded, but they may not be leaving. So possibly the date of leaving will be counted because that will be beneficial to the SSC for the relevant date. If the goods are exported by land, the date when these goods are passing the custom frontiers. If the goods are exported by post, the date when the date of dispatch of goods by the post, it gives you a date when they have dispatched the goods outside India. In case of supply of goods regarded as deemed exports, the date on which the return for such deemed exports is furnished. The day when you file the 3B. In case of services export out of India, I have exported services out of India. I have given an online consultancy for a person sitting in US for income tax or maybe DDAA. So when it will be treated as export of service, it will be treated as export of service on the date, the receipt of payment of foreign currency is received. The date of receipt of foreign currency or Indian currency permitted by RBI in certain countries, where the supply of services has been completed prior to the date. First, I rendered the service, then I received the foreign currency. So I gave a service on 1st July 17. I received the foreign currency on 1st October 2017. So 1st October 2017 will be the date from which my relevant date for 2 years will be counted. Or the issue of invoice where the payment of services has been received in advance. I received advance on 1st July 17, but I rendered the services on 1st September 2017, but I raised an invoice on 1st October 2017. So issue of invoice, the tax invoice or the invoice that I have been raising it, the date of invoice that I raise will be treated as the relevant date for the raising the relevant date for the raising the refund claim. Now, in case where the tax becomes refundable as a consequence of judgment or decree or any appellate authority, the date of communication of such judgment order, it is a very common thing. In case of refund of unutilized credit, let's understand unutilized credit has been a very discussion prone or limitation prone for the department. Unutilized input tax credit under IDS. Initially, it was 2 years from the end of the financial year. Initially, as per the explanation 2 to 54, it was the end of the financial year in which the accumulated credit or the refund arises. Now they have revised this in February 2019 and they have made that the due date of furnishing return under section 39 subsection 3. So the date of filing, the due date of filing. So even if I filed my return late, the due date of filing my return. So for example, 31st March 2020, my due date is 20th April 20, but I filed it on 5th of May 2020. The due date 20th April will be counted as 2 years for the purpose of relevant date. So due date is the criteria for the unutilized credit refund in case of IDS. It has been amended in February 2019. In case where the tax is paid provisionally, the date of adjustment of taxes. In case person other than the supplier, the date of receipt. For example, a customer has paid some taxes and he is actually not liable to pay the taxes on that particular invoice or the transaction. Then for him, other than the supplier, the date of receipt of such goods or services. In any other case, the date of payment of taxes. Now there is a master circular that was issued on 18 November 2019 also giving effect to the certain amendments of the law brought in the amendment brought in February 2019. This is a master circular as it brought in the complete online processing of the GST refunds. Also, it brought in clarity to certain confusions that was existing during the processing of the refund. So 125/44 by 2019 notification dated 18th November 2019. Fully electronic process through RFD01. Certain circulars has been superseded. Any application that has been filed before 26 September 2019 will be processed as per the old circulars. However, any application from 26th of September will be processed as per the new circular. RFD01 has to be filed. Comprehensive list as per the documents in the Annexure A. There are 4 attachments allowed. Every attachment can be of 5 MB. Neither the refund application RFD01 or the supporting documents has to be physically submitted. So there is no physical submission required to the jurisdiction officer by any chance. ARN will be, once you file the refund application, ARN will be generated. ARN is acknowledgement receipt number, and GST RFD01 is considered to be complete once the ARN is generated. Any refund claim for tax period will be filed only after filing. Only after filing. Let me complete this.
Okay, means for filing, for claiming the refund, I need to file that RFD1.
Let me complete it. So unless you have filed your GSTR1 or GSTR3B, you will not be allowed by the system. You will not be allowed by the system. And now the circular is also clarifying it, that if my RFD, my GSTR3B or my GSTR1 is not filed, I will not be allowed to file RFD01 for the particular period for which refund is applied for. The application is deemed to be filed under Rule 90(2). The ARN, the date of generation of ARN, is the date of filing of the refund of application. Within 15 days of the ARN, the date of ARN, either the deficiency memo or the acknowledgement has to be generated by the officer within 15 days of the ARN. No deficiency memo can be generated after 15 days. 15 days has to be. An acknowledgement has to be issued in relation to the refund application. No deficiency memo on any grounds may be subsequently issued for the said application. So 15 days, either refund, either acknowledgement or the refund order. So acknowledgement for the complete application RFD02 or deficiency memo RFD03 has to be issued by the JO electronically. The applicant at his option may file a refund application for tax period or clubbing a successive periods. So you can club quarterly, you can club 5 months, you can club 10 months, and now there is a circular on 31st March 20. Now you can club 2 years also together. So there is a bunching of the refund claims if it is beneficial to the SSC. It is not mandatory, it is beneficial to the SSC. Refund claims has to be filed chronologically unless it is falling into another residuary clause. So I cannot file a refund application for August 2018 unless I have filed a refund application for July 18. If there is no refund in July 18, I have to file a nil refund application. This means that an applicant after submitting a refund application under any of these categories shall not be subsequently allowed to file a refund claim under the same category for any previous period. So I can have GST refund, I can GST refund under 0 rated, I can have GST refund under IDS. Both are separate categories. So I can file chronologically separate refunds for 0 rated and separately for IDS. But each system has to be in chronology, and subsequent refund will not be allowed if the subsequent period has been filed. The principal limitation of the subsequent and the previous refund will not apply wherein a fresh application has been filed against a deficiency memo. So if I filed a refund application, officer raised a deficiency memo, DRC RFD03, and I need to file a fresh application against the DRC03, then this limitation of subsequent refunds will not be, filing will not be restricted to this. Now, any deficiency memo, the refund application would not be further processed, a fresh application would have to be filed. So once the RFD03 has been issued, there cannot be a further processing, a fresh application has to be filed. Any input tax credit or cash debited from the cash ledger would be recredited. So RFD03, immediately the recredit to the electronic credit ledger has to happen. Page 5 or 29, page 5 of the 29 has been provided in this circular, wherein it clarifies this. Recredit would take place automatically. So officer has to take no effort, and neither he has to make a payment order PMT03. Fresh refund application electronically inform GST RFD 01 for same period will have to be filed by the applicant and will have a new and distinct ARN. So old application RFD 03, new application, fresh application against the RFD 03. It will be treated as a new and a fresh ARN, and it will be processed accordingly. Refund application filed after the RFD 03 will have to be filed within 2 years of the relevant date. So whether the limitation for the previous application which I filed or the fresh application against the original application, all has to follow the relevant date criteria. So I cannot file a July 17 application in July 19 and then a fresh application in July 2020. It has to be filed before July 19. Though this is not falling as per the jurisprudence or the humanitarian grounds, but still it is provided in the circular, so let's abide by the circular. The officer has to scrutinize the application, shipping bill details and everything he has to validate. Table 9 of GSTR1 in case the application is for 0 rated. There is a circulars which has been very categorically mentioning how to the rectification or the verification of the details has to be done. Now, ineligibility of input tax credit. My input tax credit is ineligible. I have claimed the refund, but by default my input tax credit is ineligible. So the officer will raise me a RFD 08, which is a show cause notice, and he will show cause me as to why it should not be rejected, and the recovery has to be made as per 73 or the 74 depending on the clause, and the refund order has to be accordingly adjusted. The proper officer, if he has complete reasons to understand that the input tax credit is ineligible and the assessee is not able to substantiate that, then he will pass a refund rejection order for that particular amount. He will not reject the entire amount. He will reject only the particular amount which he feels is ineligible, and he has to grant the rest of the refund or recredit it back to the electronic credit ledger depending on the criteria. For SEZ, export of services, there is an error which has happened, that instead of putting the export which I made to SEZ in 3.1.a, I have put it in instead of putting in 3.1.b, I have put it in 3.1.a, which is a domestic supply in the 3b. Now, if the column 3b does not have SEZ exports or export data, then RFD 01 does not get enabled. That's a system functionality that is mentioned. So correct details is mentioned in GSTR1, but 3.1.b, please mute the mic. There is some disturbance. So they have in this circular, they have tried to give the relief, saying that if tax period commencing from July 17 to 30th June 2019, such registered person shall be allowed to file a refund application. Amount of refund of IGST claimed where the amount of refund of IGST claimed is not more than the IGST paid in the 3B channel. So interest of 60 days if it is not processed within the 60 days of filing the application. So from the date my ARN is generated, 60 days if my account is not credited, I will be provided interest at the rate of 6% from the 61st date for the non-grant of the refund on time. So tax authorities are instructed to issue RFD 05 within 45 days and from the generation of ARN and disperse the amount within 60 days. So refund has to be dispersed in your account within 60 days. So this is internal instructions for them so that they comply with the regulations. This we are aware, list of 3, the balance in the ledgers on the day of filing of the refund, the balance as per the 3B, and the balance as for the particular month. So list of the 3 is granted to me as a refund. What if no LUT Now this is a major query because many people have been taken caught offside for not able to file the LUT because system has restricted the LUT filing after a particular date, but they have made exports. So what is the relief? The circular, the 96A rules and the circular 125 bracket 44 2019 para 44 very clearly says it has been brought to the notice of the board that LUT has not been availed. It is in this regard, it is emphasized that substantive benefits of zero rating may not be denied where it has been established that the export in terms of the relevant provisions has been made. So if your export is genuine, the relevant provisions has been complied with, but you have missed out an LUT, government has condoned that and they have allowed you to claim the benefits of LUT. The delay in furnishing of LUT in such cases may be condoned and facility for export under LUT may be allowed on ex post facto basis, taking into account the circumstances. So every transaction depending on the comfort and the satisfaction of the officer, your LUT default may be condoned. I hope the query is answered now.
Hello.
Ivan,
Yes,
is the
Archana
query
ma'am.
for LUT answered?
Yes,
Hello?
Archana ma'am, can you hear?
Yes, I'm
Hello.
able to.
Yeah. See, if somebody is having export and 50% of the 50% of turnover is for domestic purposes.
The voice is not audible. Can other people please put the mic on mute? Yes. Dinesh sir, please
Yeah.
speak.
So if my 50% of the turnover is domestic turnover and 50% turnover is hello.
Exports.
Yeah, export turnover. Now I don't want to claim the refund. I don't want to claim the refund. I just want to utilize that input credit towards my domestic liability. Is it permissible fully? No issues on that?
Sir, refund is my entitlement. I can claim it. I may not claim it.
Yeah.
If I'm
So that's
happy
why
not claiming it,
I am
if
not
I'm happy
claiming. I am utilizing towards.
for domestic
I am
turnover,
utilizing. Yeah. So is there any complication in that?
there is no mandate for you to claim refund. As such, you are utilizing your entire ITC against the domestic turnover. So there is no mandate for you to claim refund. Refund is a voluntary. I am in need of funds, I can claim refund. I am not in need of funds or I don't want to claim the refund, I may not claim it. It cannot be thrust upon the SSC to claim the refunds.
Okay, great.
So I'm covering now the circular 135 bracket 05 2020. There is a latest
Even
circular
though if I
31st
forget
March.
to file the LOT, still I need to file a LOT, or it is okay if I don't?
If the system allows you to file the LUT, kindly go ahead and file it. As far as my information goes, it is not allowed to file. The system will not allow you to file,
Now,
and the jurisdiction officer.
Archana,
Backdated LOT. Backdated LOT.
I think recently they have done something for filing the LUT, even they have not filed.
Sir, the 2021 LUT is active. 1920 was active till I think till December 2019. I'm not aware whether it is active now. I have not checked it recently. Last 1.5 months, I have not seen the system.
what about 2021?
March, I can file till date.
For 2021, the system is active and the LUT is accepted. The date
No,
by
but
default of the
now if because of this COVID-19 circumstances, if somebody is not able to upload the LUT till now because of the digitals or other issues, and he has to execute the export on LUT, what to do in such scenario?
There is a
Sir,
press release for this.
Sir, let's understand this LUT is an online mechanism, and in the ordinance they have said any statement, application, or any other forms which is mandated and which is supposed to be filed, and the due date of the same is falling in the this COVID lockdown period gets extended to 30th June 2020. So if you are exporting goods,
But can
so LUT by that particular ordinance is extended till 30th June 2020.
Sorry, Archana,
grammar
sorry
would
to stop you. We have booked a slot for 2 to 3:30. So, in any ways, we have to finish in 5 minutes.
Sure. I am about to complete. I'm about to complete. So I
So-
will just brush through the new regulations, new rules, new circular 135 by 2020, dated 31st. Just few criterias. I'm just highlighting this one. Bunching of refund claims. Now, in fact, bunching of quarter refund or maybe half yearly refunds. I can bunch my refund claims over a period for financial years also. So July 17 till July 2020, I can bunch all the 3 years refund claim in single refund claim. Again, this is a facility. This is not a mandate. I can opt for it. May not opt for it. Now, there was a query wherein the GST rate has been reduced by the government on a particular product. And now, because of that, people were falling and into very different system wherein for a particular period they were under 18%, now they are at 12%. Now they paid under 18%, they want to claim the refund because of virtue of this particular change in the rate. Whether they can claim the refund of that, the circular denies that, saying that it is hereby clarified that refund of ITC accumulated for subsection 54 bracket through 3 due to change in the rate, but the input and the output supplies are at the same rate, will not be granted. So if it is not falling into IDS and for a particular period because of the change in the rate of tax, it was falling into IDS, they are not granting you the refund. This is the main idea, the reason why I'm talking about this 135 bracket 05 2020 is basically because now all my refund claims from 31st March 2020, irrespective of the period which you are filing, will be restricted only to the data auto-populated in GSTR 2A. So my eligible ITC is 100. My refund proportion claim as per 89.4 or 89.5 comes to 80. But my GSTR 2A is only showing me 60 rupees. The department will only grant me GSTR 2A refund of 60 rupees. I will have to forego my 20 rupees. However, I can utilize it for the further domestic transactions. That 20 rupees will not be granted as refund to me. So GSTR 2A has become very, very critical for you. It is not allowing you refund if it is in extra of 2A. So ask your vendors to comply with GSTR 1 requirement so that your refund is not getting restricted. In HSN and SSC summary has been made mandatory while filing the refund utilities. Your utility will not go through if it is not having HSN and SSC. Only for the people for the turnover criteria who are not required to file HSN, SSC, those are allowed to file without HSN. Otherwise, anyone above 5 crores, they are raising the deficiency memo and asking you to file HSN and SSC again. The GSTR 2A utilities has been modified. The 135/5/2020 is having the formats of GSTR 2A revised, revisited as per HSN, SSC and the auto-populated 2A. So this was the updates, clarity on certain definitions, revision on certain sections. Thank you so much for the listening, patient listening. I have exceeded my time, and do let me know if you have any queries.
I have one query, ma'am. My name is Jigar. My query is, if we import goods under advance authorization without payment of GST for exporting manufacturing goods. For manufacturing goods, we also require domestic goods and other input service for which we pay GST. Whether we can apply for GST of local goods and input tax on services of unutilized.
Are you doing refund? Are you doing exported supply?
Yeah.
If you have exports, apply for zero rated exports refund. No?
It is under advance authorization scheme.
Your advance authorization is against exports, right?
Yeah.
If you are eligible to claim the refund, against the zero rated supply 89 bracket 4.
Okay, so unutilized input tax credit will be refunded. Correct?
The refund is allowed only in two cases. Either it is zero rated or it is IDS. So if you are using the advance authorization for local supplies, there will be no refund. Advance authorization is allowed if you are doing the exports. So zero rated refund, zero rated supplies, refund can be allowed against that.
Okay. And in net ITC, whether we have to take RCM amount or not?
For zero rated input and input services, so RCM is included. For IDS, there is no refund of input services. For zero rated input services are allowed. In fact, if you export with GST, the other criteria, zero rated supply export with GST, even the restriction for capital goods is not there. So you can claim the refund of capital goods also.
Okay, thank you. What if I didn't
find the activity?
There is a disturbance. I am unable to hear you.
Am I audible?
Yeah, but there is a lot of disturbance. Yeah, tell me.
Hello. If not going to file an LUT, claim the refund.
Sorry, can you come again?
Hello, am I audible?
I think network issue है. I think network issue है. उनकी आवाज भी नहीं आ रही है. So can we take Archana कि कोई भी questions होगा तो they can raise in person either through mail or
we can put it in the we can put it in the study group that we have and we can clarify it. Yes, exactly. Yes. Thank you so much everyone for the patient listening, and thank you Shweta, thank you Neelam, thank you everyone for the opportunity. It's really a privilege for me to speak. Last 1.5 months I have not spoken, so thank you so much and take care everyone.
It is our pleasure to have you in our first webinar, and thank you so much Archana. In a very short period you agreed that yes, I will be before yesterday you and thank you so much. Just said, okay, we can go ahead. So thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Archana. It's very excellent. Nice, very nice.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm humbled, sir.
Are you there?
Yes.
Thank you.
How we can
disconnect.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll keep more and more sessions. Let's see how we can conduct this.
Absolutely.
Can you please share the link of the study group?
Sure, we'll do that. If you can send us some, because I don't have your details, so how can I send it to you?
What do you need? Sorry, ma'am, you're not audible.
You just put a message in this chat room that on which number you are accessing.
The chat is disabled. I cannot send a few messages. The chat is disabled for a few users, so I am one of them.
No, the chat is not disabled for anyone because everyone is accessing it. I can see many chats there.
Contact you on LinkedIn.
Let the person who has circulated the information can be contacted for this.
Yeah, do one thing.
The scene is there are so many other people also there who is not part of our that GST study group. So even I don't know them and I don't have their details. So that's or we send me on my personal number that I can share my number.
Hello.
Hello, am I audible?
Ma'am, at this moment, I feel many of them have unmuted themselves, so there's a lot of disturbances.
Okay. So what we can do, Neelam, अगर उनके पास detail नहीं है तो?
Either we can share a mail ID or where they can ping, and then we can share a link like that we can do for time being, or we can share anybody's number and on that they can ping and we can share the link.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
already shared my
I think
email
we
ID
can.
over there in the.
Yeah, I can see few
Uh,
of the emails are already been
yes,
shared.
yes, I can see that.
Yeah.
So we can put our email ID on this chat room.
Hmm.
Yeah, y'all can share and then we can try to share the link for the GST study group. So everyone can join who are interested.
Okay. If you can do that, please do that.
Okay, ma'am, we'll try doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
we'll
so much.
disconnect.
Thank you so
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
I'm
everyone.
I'm waiting
Thank
for
you.
few minutes since
Okay.
everyone is sending the email ID. After 5 minutes or few minutes, I will disconnect the meeting.
Fine. Okay. So I am leaving now.
Yeah. Okay.
Me too.
Shweta, I'm unable to write anything in the chat box. Shweta, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Neelam here. Hello.
I'm unable to write anything in the chat box.
Okay, just note down my number. You can ping me on that. That's also fine.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Shall I say?
Yeah.
98
Yeah.
70
Okay.
40
Okay.
4482.
That's 9870404482.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You're most welcome.
It might require key, right? Get body. Get में अरे look, मेरे मालूम हेडर्स में स्टेट एलिमेंट जरूरी था मुझे लिंक दो मेरे पास मुझे एक बार लिंक देते हैं नहीं गेट में हेडर्स में सी headers are those headers which are supposed to be standard headers. You don't give URL parameters in headers.